Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. And today we're going to be talking about the recent deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa.
Oh, yeah.
Gene Hackman, of course, legendary actor, two-time Oscar winner, brought us Popeye Doyle in The French Connection, starred in other classics like Hoosiers and Unforgiven.
A true Hollywood icon.
Like really a heavyweight.
Yeah.
And, the circumstances surrounding their deaths are quite puzzling.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you really start to look into the details,
yeah,
it raises more questions than answers, for sure.
More questions than answers. Yeah, and there's something about the way that the story has unfolded that almost mirrors some of the characters that he played, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
This underlying sense of mystery, this quiet intensity.
It's kind of eerie how that's playing out.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
What do we know so far about how this all unfolded?
So the initial reports came out about 2 weeks ago, and it was all very vague, very few details. But the main points that came out were that maintenance workers had found them dead in their Santa Fe home.
Yeah, and they found them through a window, right?
Through a window.
Because they hadn't heard from the couple for 2 weeks.
Which, yeah, exactly. And that really paints a picture of isolation, right?
Yeah, a life lived away from the public eye.
Right.
And maybe even intentionally secluded. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But then there's the 911 call from the scene. Have you heard that?
Oh, I have. Yeah. It's unsettling, to say the least.
The caller's voice.
Yeah.
The urgency. No, dude, they're not moving.
Chilling.
It really sets the scene for what the police were walking into.
Absolutely. I mean, you can just imagine the scene. The couple were found in separate rooms, both deceased, and there were scattered pills near Betsy.
Oh, wow. So right away you think, okay, what's going on here?
Exactly.
What kind of pills are we talking about?
And tragically, their dog was also found dead in a crate.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 other dogs were found alive, thankfully.
Right.
But it makes you think about what those final moments were like.
Absolutely. A tragic element that adds another layer of complexity to the situation.
So we've got these scattered pills.
Mm-hmm.
Were they prescription? Were they deliberately taken? Was it accidental? What do we know about that?
It's a key question, and the reports haven't released any specifics about the type of pills yet, so that just fuels the speculation.
Right. I mean, right away your mind goes to all these different places, right?
Absolutely. But it's important to note that initial reports ruled out carbon monoxide or gas leaks.
Okay, so that narrows things down a little.
It does.
At least in terms of environmental factors.
Right.
But we've got this mystery surrounding the time of death reports, mentioned decomposition and even mummification in Betsy's hands and feet.
Right. Which means that they had been there for a while.
I mean, that doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't. And determining the time of death in these cases is more of an art than a science. Decomposition rates are influenced by so many factors.
Mm-hmm.
Temperature, humidity, the presence of insects.
So 2 weeks could be an underestimate then.
It very well could be.
So how do investigators narrow down a time frame like that?
Well, they would be looking at everything: uncollected mail misdeliveries, any sign of digital activity, emails, texts, social media.
Right, like trying to piece together their last known moments.
Exactly like a puzzle.
A puzzle with some very important pieces missing.
Right. And those scattered pills keep coming to mind.
Yeah, they feel crucial.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got the pills, we've got the mysterious timeline. What about the location? I mean, their home is described as being very secluded, gated community, long driveway, nestled in the mountains.
It does sound peaceful, but also perhaps a bit isolated, right?
Yeah, it makes you wonder about their social network, their connection to the outside world. How often were they interacting with people?
Exactly. And did they want that isolation? Did they choose that life?
Right. Did they choose to be away from everything? I mean, it really makes you think about some of Hackman's most famous roles, some of which dealt with isolation and mystery.
Yeah, you're right.
Like The Conversation.
Oh, yeah, where he plays a surveillance expert who becomes increasingly paranoid.
It's a fascinating parallel, right?
It is both on screen and off, the sense of being watched, secrets lurking beneath the surface.
Even a film like Enemy of the State.
Right.
He's helping Will Smith's character escape surveillance.
Hmm.
But there's still that undercurrent of suspicion.
Absolutely hidden agendas.
So we have this legendary actor known for roles that explore those themes, and then he and his wife are found dead under these mysterious circumstances.
It's like life imitating art in the most unsettling way.
And it adds another layer to the question of their social connections. If they were deliberately living a more private life, maybe their absence wouldn't have raised red flags right away.
Right. Maybe it wouldn't have seemed unusual for them to go quiet for a while.
Which makes me think about the timing of their deaths coinciding with the Oscars this weekend.
Oh, wow. Yeah, what a strange twist of fate.
It's almost as if the spotlight he so carefully avoided in life has swung back around in the wake of his death.
It really is, and there are reports that the Academy is planning a tribute to him during the ceremony.
Do you think they'll address the circumstances surrounding his death? Or will they just focus on his career achievements?
It's a delicate situation, for sure. Acknowledging the mystery might feel intrusive to his family.
Right.
But ignoring it entirely could also seem disingenuous, especially given the public's fascination with this case.
People are definitely hungry for answers.
Of course they want closure, and I think we tend to project our own anxieties onto these kinds of stories, especially when they involve someone as well-known and respected as Gene Hackman.
I get that we want to believe there's a rational explanation.
Right, we want a clear-cut answer.
But sometimes life just doesn't offer those neat resolutions.
It doesn't, and we're left with ambiguity and unanswered questions.
Which can be tough to accept.
Mm.
So what happens next with the investigation? What are we waiting for at this point?
Well, the autopsy and toxicology reports are going to be crucial.
Right.
They'll hopefully provide more definitive answers about the cause of death. We've talked about the pills, but there's also the possibility of underlying health conditions that might have contributed.
And the toxicology specifically, how long could that take?
It could be a while. Toxicology tests are very complex and time-consuming, and labs often have a backlog of cases.
If we're talking weeks, months?
It could be months.
So we're left to sift through these fragments of information, these unsettling clues, and try to make sense of it all.
I guess in a way that's the most intriguing aspect of this story.
It is.
It challenges us to confront the unknown, to accept the possibility that some mysteries may never be fully solved.
Which brings us to the biggest question of all, Kari. What do you think happened? I feel like we're in one of those movies where they put all the evidence up on a board, you know?
Oh, yeah.
With the photos and the red string connecting everything.
Exactly.
But it's like we're missing some of the pieces.
Some key pieces, yeah.
So let's play detective for a minute. What are some of the most likely scenarios here based on what we know?
Well, the scattered pills definitely point towards a possible overdose. Whether accidental or intentional, we don't know.
Right.
And we don't know the type of medication. But given Betsy's reported mummification, which likely indicates dehydration,
yeah,
certain types of pills could have exacerbated that condition.
It's a grim thought, but it makes sense.
It does.
And they were found in separate rooms.
Right.
Which adds another layer of complexity. Does that suggest they weren't together in those final moments?
It's possible perhaps one of them became ill and the other was unable to help.
Right.
Or, and this is a darker possibility, perhaps there was a disagreement. A moment of crisis that led to them being apart.
And then there's the isolation factor we talked about. If they were truly reclusive, it's possible whatever happened went unnoticed for a while.
Exactly, and allowed the scene to, well, deteriorate.
Right. Which brings us back to those missing puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
The toxicology report will be key.
Absolutely.
In determining if medication played a role, and if so, was it accidental or intentional?
Right. And until then, we're left with these echoes of Gene Hackman's on-screen personas, these themes of isolation and mystery that seem to have seeped into his real life.
It's a reminder that even those who seem larger than life are ultimately vulnerable, subject to the same frailties and uncertainties as the rest of us.
And perhaps that's the most enduring takeaway from this deep dive.
Yeah.
It's not just about solving the mystery of their deaths, but about acknowledging the complexities of human existence, the fragility of life, and the enduring power of stories, both real and imagined.
Beautifully put.
Thank you.
So for those of you listening, we want to hear from you what stood out to you in this story.
Yeah.
What questions are still lingering in your minds?
Absolutely.
Let's keep exploring the depths of this mystery and perhaps learn something about ourselves along the way.
Until next time, keep diving deep.